The government's launching a campaign today to ensure people know the risks of cosmetic procedures. It comes amid a rise in demand for things like Botox and fillers and a growth in unregulated firms offering cheaper services. 3 weeks ago, our exclusive poll for our programme suggested almost half of women aged 18 to 30 thought that having a cosmetic procedure these days was a lot like having your hair cut. So we gathered an audience of doctors and people who'd had such procedures and others to discuss the issues. Here's a clip.
I had my jaw filler done and I kept getting it done, thought it looked amazing on like a picture, and then I started filming myself for YouTube and I was noticing I was turning my head a lot and it literally looked like I had an artificial lump just placed in my face. It wasn't even on my jawline, so I went and got it dissolved and now my face just looks so much better, so you've really got to be careful.
Yeah.
I think there should be an age limit. I had my boobs done when I was 23, but it was something that I wanted from when I was about 15, 16. Girls at school had bigger breasts, I was jealous. Spoke to my mum about it, but for me it was like research, make sure that you get a good surgeon, make sure that you see a few consultations. I know they do charge for consultations and they can be expensive, but for me it's not like buying a bag or a pair of shoes. This is something you need to be seriously aware of and making sure that you're going to be putting yourself kind of into good hands.
This morning we've been speaking to one 22-year-old beauty blogger, Cassidy Valentine, who's had a really bad experience with lip fillers. She wasn't able to come on the programme today, but she has given us permission to show you the results. Have a look at that. That is definitely a bad experience with lip fillers. You can see the bruising and the skin has broken. Yeah, that is a nightmare. Let's speak now to Dr. Tijon Esho, who's a cosmetic doctor who features in E4's Body Fixers show, and Ashton Collins, director at Save Face. That's a national register of accredited practitioners who provide non-surgical cosmetic treatments. And Save Face, you're part of this government campaign. Why do you say it's important?
It's really important because I think the vast majority of people fall into the wrong hand, not because they're risk adverse, it's because they don't know what they don't know. And a large majority of these people seeking these procedures perceive them as little to no risk, which of course isn't the case.
But all they have to do is Google, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Google only goes so far. It doesn't replace a face-to-face consultation with a credible and reputable healthcare practitioner who will talk through those risks with you in detail and make sure that if you do consent to treatment, it's informed consent.
OK. Dr. Esho, the government is saying, do your research, know the risks and choose a safe practitioner. How would you know if a practitioner was safe?
I think that's the key question there. Any initiative to give education to the public is great, but what we have to realise is how much do the actual public know. If you look at different factors, at the moment the government's not clear about what practitioners should be doing these treatments. Many in the industry already stipulate it should be medical speciality and only be done by doctors, dentists, nurses. But as you know from the last show, anyone can grab a needle and inject and use fillers and Botox, and that's what the worrying thing is. And yes, it's great to have this campaign, but we need actually laws and regulations to stop unregulated practitioners. OK, so you are calling for legislation. Ashton, first of all, would you agree with that? Do you think this is enough, this campaign, or what about legislation?
I think legislation would be everybody's ideal. I mean, as a register, we only limit our entries to healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, dentists and prescribing pharmacists. And that's because, you know, there are risks involved with these procedures and you need to be sure that if you have them, that you're in safe hands that will look after you if something goes wrong. OK. What kind of questions should people be asking ahead of, I don't know, having some stuff injected into your lips and to ensure that it doesn't go wrong, like the images we've just shown our audience? Yeah,
sorry, I was going to ask Ashton, then I'll come back to you.
Sorry.
So it's really important that you understand who is injecting you. So you've got their full name, their credentials, because all too often these people operate under spurious names, and then when something goes wrong, people can't find them.
So what credentials? What do they need? What letters after their name?
We only recommend doctors, nurses, dentists and prescribing pharmacists, a registered healthcare professional who's accountable, insured and is competent to look after you if something goes wrong. It's important to ask them about their previous work, how many treatments have they done historically, ask to see client testimonials, and really make sure that you're comfortable with them. Have an in-depth consultation, ask about the side effects, what can go wrong, how will you look after me, when are you available, what aftercare can I receive, and really, if you don't feel comfortable, don't be afraid to walk away.
And what would you say, Dr. Isho?
I think Ashton covered some great points there, and the ones I would add to is one, making sure that you're in a clinical setting having these treatments. One of the big things we talk about these things going wrong, even in the right hands they can. They're medical treatments that they can have adverse outcomes that can have serious implications. But the difference between a medical practitioner and a non-medical practitioner is that they're able to independently see these, independently diagnose, and also independently treat those. So that's really important. And I think also is to ask that question, what happens if things go wrong? What will you do? And, there needs to be a robust plan there, because every practitioner, medical practitioner, has to be prepared and understand and be able to recognise and treat these. It's not just about doing the procedures themselves.
OK. Thank you both. Thank you very much. Ashton Collins and Dr. Isho on the government's campaign to make sure that you educate yourself if you are considering a cosmetic.